I'm David Murphy from the firm Resilient Land and Water. We've been retained by the town to update the plan of conservation and development. Ann, you want to say anything or just great? Okay. You all know Ann, town planner in Hartgen. That's who we report to, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission. The consultant team that we have tonight, Victoria Beachery. Victoria, raise your hand. And then Mike Zuba in the back from our partners at MP Planning. So we're teamed with MP Planning for this plan of conservation development update. And the process has really, tonight is the night that it's really starting to get underway. So we've done some work already, which we'll mention, but we haven't had a chance to dive into the details yet, and that's what will be happening pretty soon. You all good with the code? We'll be able to remind you again as we get there. Okay, so we'll spend a couple minutes talking about what a plan of conservation development is. We're going to introduce you to the topics that are on the boards so we can generate discussion. And then we'll talk about what the plan is, and go around and visit the boards. And then we'll end with what the next steps are. We'll have a couple chances to remind you that there is a survey that's live. There's a project webpage that's live. So if you write nothing down tonight, you can go there and look for this presentation tomorrow. It'll be posted there. Right, go ahead. Here's the code again, so if you missed it the first time. And this is optional. Also, this is a non-binding vote, these questions. So it's just for fun. All right, go ahead, next slide. Okay, so this is an icebreaker to see if it's all working. The Guilford Green was once used as a
graveyard, fairground.
Someone giving answers out loud right away. So again, this question is to just make sure that you've got the kinks worked out with Mentimeter and does somebody want to vote for soccer field to see if
Let me vote. I'm going to vote.
All right, so as we get to more of these questions, I think we'll probably
My vote didn't show up.
go a little faster. You're all getting the hang of it.
Yes.
It's like answers of, oh, good, thank you.
Soccer wasn't invented.
Everyone feel comfortable with it?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we can go to the next slide. All right, so a plan of conservation development. So what is that? It's a plan for the town to guide conservation and development and other things that are related to those two issues. And it's required by the state, by Section 823 of the general statutes, in order to receive certain kinds of discretionary funding. So a town could, I guess, just not have a POCD. And we don't advise that. We think it's a good thing to have. It's a shared vision. It's all of your vision for the next 10 years. It'll cover housing, transportation, natural resources, coastal management, et cetera, things that we'll be talking about tonight. And it will be used by the Planning and Zoning Commission to guide decision-making. So it's kind of their plan, but it's also all of your plan. And the update should occur every 10 years to keep towns eligible for those funds. The current plan was adopted in 2015. It will expire this later on this year and will be well underway with the update by that point in time, so there won't be much of a lapse at all. There are 8 goals in the current plan. The graphic's hard to see, but if you've seen the plan online where it's available, you can read what they are, but they're about character, conservation, economic development, and we expect to bring these goals forward, but modify them a little bit. We're going to change some of the words to kind of to modernize them and to make sure that it's forward-looking and not kind of a stagnant statement. So this workshop is a key step. It's the first public workshop. There'll be 2 that occur this spring that have the same format. We're looking for a location. We have a location in the northern part of town. We're looking for a date later on this spring. And when we come back for the second series of workshops in the fall, that'll be to present goals and strategies and that sort of thing. So nothing's been written yet. We don't have goals and strategies written. This is the first workshop. Next slide. So the topics that we'll be talking about over the next couple of months with the Planning and Zoning Commission and with everyone tonight are listed there on the left-hand side. So economic opportunities, services, infrastructure, coastal management, coastal resources, environmental resources, open space, resiliency, which has been a big topic in Guilford, historic and cultural resources, sustainability, housing choices, mobility, transportation. So that's how we parsed it out, but there's a continuum there, right? Like those things don't all exist on their own. They're all related to one another. So it's going to be important for us to recognize that and make sure the plan recognizes that as well. The right-hand side shows some of the data sources that we have to investigate these topics. All right, so we have, I think, just one slide in each of those 9 topics after this one. So this one is just called Meet the Town. This is information that probably isn't a huge surprise to those who are here. Population is pretty stable, about 22,000 since the last POCD, about 2,700 active businesses in town, and those range in size from 1 person to hundreds of people, right? A variety of existing land uses are found throughout town, and residential is about 45% by area. And so you can see the colors in the map. The yellow is the residential, and then when we walk around later, that same map will be on the board, so we'll see it again. Next slide. So the first topic, not the first topic in importance, but the first topic in this presentation is economic opportunities, economic development, which traditionally we have thought as building things, right? But that isn't the only thing that falls under the umbrella of economic opportunities. So this is data that the state provides the top 5 employment sectors: government, healthcare, retail, professional services, manufacturing. Maybe those are surprising, but when you think about it, those are pretty big sectors. Employment levels here in town have been pretty consistent over the last few years, barring some changes in retail due to COVID and that sort of thing, but overall pretty consistent. Many of the growing occupations in Guilford are similar to other shoreline towns. We're working in Clinton right now. For example, and restaurant workers are very much needed and hard to find, and it's hard to find a place for them to live that's nearby. On the right-hand side, we have an image that we stole from the state. This is the new state conservation development policies plan update. So this is updated every few years by the state, by Office of Policy and Management. And what's intriguing is that Guilford Center has this pink color, which shows a local activity zone, which means that there's this recognition of a density of services, the town hall, fire station, businesses, restaurants, retail, sort of in one place, kind of around the green. And so I think that that's something that we'll be looking at interesting as we move forward. How do we match up with what the state believes is present? Did they get it wrong? And so we'll have a chance to talk about that in this plan update. We'll also be looking at community services and infrastructure. And so far, most of the research that we've done is not research per se. We met with boards and commissions that came to the town hall south, and that was in January, and we distributed questionnaires to town departments. So we have feedback from board and commission members, from committees, from town staff. And so it appears at this time that most of the facilities in town are structurally sufficient. Needs that have been identified are routine maintenance, things that one would expect. Upgrades are consistent with that, with the age of buildings. There's been a lot of talk. I've been working with the town for almost 20 years. Where to put public works has always been a topic for almost 20 years. And so that's something that we think will be going forward. And you've all heard about this as well. Some departments are looking to increase capacities, and so that's something that is good to hear as well. But by and large, the plan of conservation development won't be saying this building needs a new roof. That's not what the plan is for, but we need to be aware of what sort of needs are occurring. Next topic. Coastal resources. So the town has a municipal coastal program from about 15, 20 years ago. And it was developed by the Shellfish Commission with funding from that commission, very generous. And it set a lot of good policy for coastal resources management. So we'll be looking at that and deciding, what in there needs to be updated or tweaked going forward. And so coastal management will be a part of this plan, and it is required by state statute to include statements about policy in the coastal management area. Don't forget, it's 1,000 feet from tidal wetlands or tidal waters, right? So there may be a parcel that it seems like it's not coastal, but it's within that 1,000 feet. Wastewater management will likely be coming up in a couple different topics, especially in this one. Natural resources and sort of viability of water-dependent uses in the town marina, all of those things will be in this topic. Public access, very important part of it. Next slide. All right, so we've got, this is like a agree or disagree sort of thing. And hopefully it shows up on the phone, right? When they look at it, they see agree, disagree.
The left is disagree, the right is strong. The left will be strongly disagree, the right will be strongly agree. So kind of gauge on that.
So there's one statement about economic, Guilford is a strong and growing economic center, community. Guilford supports the community with well-maintained facilities and services, and Guilford protects and plans for coastal resources. So now you see what's going on. We have a question for each of those 3 previous slides. And so we're looking to see if you strongly agree or do not agree with these statements. And how will this help us? So I think if we had a statement where everybody disagreed, we'd need to spend some time on that. Where, on the other hand, if we have a statement where many of you agree, we know that there's some consensus that we can probably find in that issue. If it's in between, then we know we have some work to do. So maybe not a lot of people are strongly agree with economic community, strong and growing economic community. We have many people who seem to agree that facilities and services are well maintained and available. And then coastal resources, I'm really pleased to see that that's got an 8. Okay, everyone feel like they had a chance to vote for this one, or? Okay, no problem.
Polls open.
And while we're on this one, I was going to say, let's take a question. Go ahead.
So just for clarification, you're not relying on your assessment on this small group of people's
No.
votes, are you?
No.
Okay, all right.
No, these are basically icebreakers so that you all aren't shy. I don't think you are, but it's to kind of get the discussion going. And so when you walk around later, when I'm done talking and you get to, all of you get to speak and walk around to the boards, you'll have things to react to and talk about. I think we're probably good with this one, right? Okay, so the next couple topics we'll go through environmental resources and open space. So the town has, about 25% of the town is designated as open space, either land trust or space set aside, maybe as part of a small development, or it's recreational land or owned by water utilities, that sort of thing. An additional 7% is vacant land, and about 6% is agricultural, which as I stand here, that number seems small, but I think it's a vocal community and a key community, so maybe in our minds it feels like it's more land. Variety of resource types that need to be considered when evaluating future development and open space designation. We want to be thinking about not further fragmenting forests, avoiding floodplains, that sort of thing. And this map, I believe, is on a board, so you'll get to see it later on. It's the same as the previous one that shows land use.
Question?
Yep.
How does that compare to the average town in Connecticut?
Well, that's a great question that we do get sometimes. The average town, pretty well. I think Guilford is doing well. Mike, would you agree? Back there in the back, say yes or no.
Yes.
Excellent.
Mikey likes it.
Mike and I have worked in, I guess, all the towns in the state at this point, right? So,
What is pretty well there?
well, it's right. We can't compare you to Sharon, right, or a town that has a lot of state forest. It's not. So it's you're not going to be in the same profile as one of those towns. But for a town of its size, there's a lot of set aside, dedicated open space.
How about like shoreline towns, somewhat comparable towns, towns along 95, right?
Right.
Shoreline, right?
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of towns that we consider ourselves kind of comparable to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So-
it was helpful to clarify. So
So-
you're doing better, I would say.
I don't know what better means.
There's a higher percentage of dedicated open space.
So we have a lot of open space relative to other shore towns.
But I wouldn't say that you have double the amount, right? So it's hard to parse out exactly what everyone's thinking in their head when they say you're doing better or have more.
I think certain towns have similar amounts, so Guilford, Madison have similar amounts. The state has a goal of having 21% of the state as open space. I think a broad goal for every town, preserved open space. A broad goal should be trying to get near that. When I look at 25%, I'm going to say that that's exceeding your contribution towards the state's overall goal. So I would say that you're a little bit above that. But when you try to compare to say like a Brantford or a more developed town south on the shoreline, you have much more. Then you guys go a little further up, you have some towns that have less developed land, more open space. But from a protected standpoint, there's a lot here.
Okay, next slide, and we'll be able to talk more about this. So resiliency, so the town is still famous for having the first resiliency plan in the state, and that's great. Local, and you'll never lose that. So I thought it'd be fun to just get some additional facts and figures, just to, because it's been a long time since that plan was adopted. It's been about 10, 11 years. So the town has about 500 flood insurance policies in force with 8 million in flood insurance payments to date. So that's kind of a lot. And it just reflects the coastal flood risks and the fact that people have flood insurance, which is not a bad thing. It exists to help, help offset losses from flooding. So the town's resiliency plan was developed in 2012, 2013, adopted in 2014, and then sort of appended to the previous POCD, right, Mike? That's what you guys did. It was kind of just referenced by reference. So they exist in parallel. So that plan will still exist. What we have a chance to do now is kind of make the resiliency discussion more community-wide and bring in things like extreme heat, which are things that we haven't spent as much time talking about over the past 10 years that we should, in severe storms. So this will be a big topic for the plan of conservation development that I'm personally excited to be working on. It's in the name of the company that I have, but we also want to make sure that it's not going to dominate the discussion. And then we want to make sure that where we talk about critical facilities and services, that they are made resilient as well. It's not only houses, but it's also the things that all of us rely on to have the community.
Excuse me, is this climate resiliency, or can you be more specific about?
Severe storms, climate, right, natural disasters, yeah. A couple questions, go ahead in the front.
Do you have any inclusion of a risk assessment for forest fires or wildfires?
What we'll probably do, we will, right, well, and that's already sort of written in the town's hazard mitigation plan, which is updated every 5 years, which is great, because that's obviously more frequent than the plan of conservation development. So we can look in that document, it's 2 years old, and see what it says and then pull it in. There's a question behind you, I think. Go ahead.
When you look at resiliency in terms of climate and open space, are there studies that are looking at native or native adjacent plants versus lawn versus, there's a big difference?
Yeah, there is, and that's going to overlap with, I think, the next slide, which is sustainability, or it's 2 slides from now, but we're hoping to recognize that connection and make sure that we draw some attention to that. Go ahead.
Would this also include things like sea level rise and salt intrusion?
Yeah, and the town's resilience plan, the one that's pictured on the right, is mostly about that. It's mostly about sea level rise and coastal flooding. So we're going to try to expand the discussion a little bit in the POCD. And the last plan of conservation development also included some discussion on this, but now it's been 10 years. So let's keep going, I guess.
Can I say one thing?
Yes?
So I just want to say that they're all really great topics, but I think it's really important to keep in mind that the POCD isn't going to be super specific on one topic. So whether it's sea level rise or if it's the native plants, what it tries to do is kind of collectively and comprehensively pull in other resources as well. So we'll highlight the challenges and the needs, but we can't specifically say, this road, sea level rise, this is how we're going to fix it. So it's a little more broad, but specific, if that makes sense. So I just want to kind of set the expectation for level of specificity for the POCD. So we could definitely have a specific conversation, but it's a challenge to make the plan itself very specific. Just a,
No, that's helpful. And all the other plans that are referenced in this plan can be updated at any time and may be updated over the next 10 years. So we can't supersede what might happen in this as well. All right, go ahead. Okay, historic and cultural resources is a long-standing topic in plans of conservation development. So of course, we'll be looking at that. We love to talk about the new digital mapping that the state has. You can see a view on the right-hand side. So now the State Historic Preservation Office maintains and supports this data, so you can all make your own map just like that. 6 districts in Guilford, 2 local districts, one which is on the state register. We won't get into the details of what those all mean right now, but it's coming, right? We'll have a chance for those discussions. About 1,600 structures and landmarks. There are different organizations in town that help kind of support historic and cultural resources. And in SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office has produced some guidelines on how to make historic structures more resilient. So this is an example of how different topics can intersect, because you can't just move, for example, historic resources. Sometimes that isn't possible. So we'll be looking at some of those resources as well to try to talk about this in the plan update. Go ahead. All right. How are there already answers?
I said it so people can go through it.
Overachievers. All right. So Guilford embraces and conserves environmental resources and open space. Guilford is a resilient community. That, again, that doesn't mean only your house, it's the whole community. And then Guilford values historic and cultural resources.
Getting connectivity.
If you try to unclick Wi-Fi, can you just write off cell phone? Or?
I think that might have been done, I might have done that unintentionally. The results are just gonna kind of be generalized, so it won't be, I'll make sure to make a note of it.
And while we're pausing this, Ann, did anybody arrive from planning and zoning?
No, thank you.
That,
It wasn't
okay,
my
I was
questions
going
together.
to call them out and make them raise their hand. Okay. Okay, folks are good with this. You either answered or you're sort of frustrated with the signal. And I'm glad to see some folks agreeing with this. We've got something to work with in the middle topic there, resiliency. Okay. Great. All right, sustainability. So Guilford is certified, so registered and certified with Connecticut Sustainable CT, which means the town can access certain grant funding that they have for things that are like pollinator gardens and the arts, because sustainability is more than just environmental, it's also community sustainability and the arts, support for organizations, for example. And so the town intends to stay in sustainable CT, and so it's important that the plan of conservation development continues to make the town eligible. So we'll be sort of taking care of that as we update this plan. And some of the things that are mentioned in the state's certification are sustainable shopping guide, open space inventory, the natural resources inventory, low impact development, that's the LID, pollinator pathways, et cetera. So we don't want to cause a retrograde or a downgrade in the state's certification, so we'll be working with that committee to make sure that that does not happen. Next slide. All right, housing is a required topic in plans of conservation development, and even if it wasn't required, we would be including it. We'd be remiss not to. So it sounds like, based on meeting with different committees, commissions, and departments, that Guilford has made some progress in moving housing affordability and housing choices forward. That doesn't mean it's done. And this will be a big topic in the plan. So housing-related challenges include lack of sewers, right? We've talked about this for a decade now or for longer. Affordability, right? Affordability, which is different than whether it's affordable, right? These are different terms, and we'll be talking about that as we go forward. This need for choices for people that want to downsize, have a smaller house or less space, less yard, competitiveness, And then other issues to consider are walkability, transit, neighborhood feel, access to services. You'll see in a moment, Guilford has sort of good choices in transit, which we'll talk about. It'll never be perfect anywhere in Connecticut. That's not how we're developed. But this plan can help with some of that. All right, next slide. Here we go. So mobility and transportation. So choices that people have in town, of course driving, but Shoreline East, transit, so the bus, right? The extra mile program, has anybody used that? Anybody here? Excellent. So that's, it's temporary, it's 2 years, I think, the funding that's in place, and the service is shared with Madison, so someone who lives not on a bus route can sort of arrange for a ride, and that's that extra mile. It gets you from your house to the place where you can jump in a car or jump in a bus. Shoreline East is a big topic. You know, there's been recent efforts to improve service, but it's kind of a push-pull situation. You need riders, but you need to make it so that riders want to use the service. So we'll be talking about that in the plan a little bit, and we'll be looking to see what the state is doing as well. Transit-oriented development, TOD, is something that is a little bit more of a challenge in Guilford than other towns just because of geography. The train station is off Whitfield and not right downtown, but there are some opportunities, we think, and we'd like to hear more about that going forward. And we need to be consistent with SCROG, South Central Regional Council of Governments. That's your council of government. We need to see what they're talking about in their plans as well.
What does TOD stand for?
Transit-oriented development. So, for example, you take the train to Guilford, get off, and use the extra mile to get to your house, kind of thing. Okay, so Guilford takes initiative when it comes to sustainability. Again, that could be the arts, maybe the pollinator garden that you love the most, maybe it's how you handle your trash, it's recycling. That's a big, sustainability covers all that. Guilford supports housing for all. And Guilford is a community on the move with strong modes of transit.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
You're saying that Guilford supports housing for all, but just look at this room.
No, it's asking.
Oh, is it asking?
That's a question.
Yeah, do you agree or disagree?
On our phone.
Right, so this is where I was.
So why did I come here? Couldn't we have done this all by Zoom or something? I'm not allowed to raise my hand and ask a question?
No, you are. I'm just clarifying that he did not make an assertion. He asked a
I
question.
actually had a question about a question that was asked.
Right. And we know that housing will be a topic for this plan, and this is the first workshop. Hopefully, we're going to have a slide on this, but you've all seen that there's a survey. I hope you'll take the survey. Internet-based survey, so you can do it from home. This workshop's going, well, I don't want to jump the gun, we'll get there. So everyone's voting on this? These are opinion questions.
Yeah, no, so I do have some paper copies, I'll get them for both. So what it is, it's.
All right.
We just have this gauge of what topics we really need to dig into.
So these three, right, so we've uncovered something, right? This is a different profile of responses than the previous few questions, right? You've all caught this?
This isn't,
So there's some work to do on these topics. That's why we're having this workshop.
no, it's not as in-depth, I'll talk to you.
Everyone's responded to this? Okay, great. So tonight, I'm going to be quiet very soon, and we'll do a couple open questions. I don't think we need to do hundreds of open questions, but we should do a few more. And then Victoria, Mike, and I will split up, and Ann will be a floater, go into all the stations, and we have sticky notes, right? It's your typical sticky note sort of night. You'll be telling us your comments on the topics that are on the boards. And we have maps as well to support the questions, and the words that are on here are just to get you thinking. We haven't written this plan. This is the first public workshop. It's just to get you thinking. So that's what tonight will be about. And let's go to the next slide. We're going to repeat this workshop. We believe in June, right? We're working on the North Guilford Fire Station. We're just still looking for a date,
Yes.
I believe. For folks that live up there and feel like they need to be near where they live, and that's totally valid. We want to move around. We can't have everyone always come here. We'll be meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission in June, starting in June, running through a couple months, so it'll be this summer, talking about these topics. So, for example, when we meet with them in mid-June, we'll be talking about economic development and demographics. Go ahead.
I have a question. Will those meetings be open to the public?
They are going to, yeah. Yep.
They're going to happen during the
They're extra, they're not,
P&Z.
they're the extra meetings, right?
Okay.
The agendas have been relatively full, and so we need to have our own meetings, but they've
No,
been.
that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Fine.
Go ahead.
Are they going to announce it? I know they did the mass announcement yesterday, but that doesn't give everybody time to plan. So to me, you should have one announcement like a week before.
I think there'll be standard announcement schedule for planning and zoning.
I mean, it wasn't even.
We will publish in the paper, but we can also take that on board and do earlier announcements.
And relative to the announcement for tonight, we tried a couple different modes, but you're right. The one that went to the, is it Blackboard Connect? What's the service? It's not as different. Robin, what's it called? That was this week's.
Yeah, that was today, yesterday.
Did people see us on the green ever? We went to, we did a little, tested out a pop-up event a couple weeks ago, and, all right. Well, so we're just getting started with this part of it, so you've missed nothing. And then when we come back to do the workshops in the fall, it won't be the same thing. We'll have goal statements and some strategies to talk about. All right, so this is the survey that we spoke of, and we don't have as many participants so far in the survey as I thought that where we'd be. So I'm assuming you're all going to go home and do it tonight. Go ahead.
Mention that we have cards, so if folks don't have their phone, we'll give them a card.
So we have little business cards. They're not on the table because we don't have unlimited amount. But this is on the back of the card, so you can take it with you tonight. A little business card size card. So again, you don't have to write this down, but we hope that folks will take the survey. The way we structured it, Victoria, I think if you don't want to continue after the first 10 questions, you can stop. But you can also continue with more questions. And if you don't continue, like if you just want to do the first few questions, your answers are still recorded. You haven't lost anything. So it's set up for kind of two tolerance levels. Right, I think that's everything, right? Okay, so time check, 7 o'clock. Let me just, any broad questions right now or concerns that you want to get out before you walk around the boards? Also, just a reminder, we do have sign-in sheets over there, so it's not required to provide your contact information, but there's a column that says, do you want to receive information? So check that column, then put your email address on the right-hand side. It's not required. Anything you want to add, Ann? You good? Okay.
I'd just like to add to for the survey and everything that we're talking about tonight, share with your friends, share with your neighbors. We're going to pass out some of the cards for the survey, share those if you've already taken it. The more people we can reach out, especially early on, the better as part of this process.
There's a question back there, go ahead.
Yes, you stated that you'll be dealing or working with the Planning and Zoning Committee in making decisions going forward with the town and how you want to see these key. Is that something that the rest of the town is going to have an ability to know that those kinds of things are coming up for consideration with the planning and zoning and what that might look like in their neighborhood or any of that sort of thing?
The answer is yes. So we're going to be presenting the topics as announced in the public notice process for the meetings. There'll be 4 meetings in June, July. We might be skipping August and September. So 1 in June, 2 in July, 1 in September. That cover these topics.
Okay.
Kind of in the same order. Mm-hmm. And then people can come and listen, but those are really presentations of different data sources and facts and findings. And then they'll generate some discussion with the commission. And they'll be serving as kind of like a steering committee. And so they'll help us to, maybe we'll present economic development, and planning and zoning will say, that doesn't sound right, check on that. That's what will kind of happen in the meeting. And then after we're done with those 4 meetings, we'll be working with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and with Anne, really, and her team, to put together the goals for the plan. But we're going to take the survey results, we're going to take these workshops, and the pop-up events, and other things that we use to get public opinion, to merge that into it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
So you had said that other commissions are being incorporated into the dialogue as well, such as the Conservation Commission, Shellfish Commission. I assume it's not just planning and zoning.
That's correct, yeah. And so we've only just kind of started that. What we did, and some of you in the room participated in this, is back in January, we had kind of 3 open house all-day sessions in the town, outside of Anne's office, basically. And all the different boards and commissions and committees, some of them are not full commissions, we're invited to send 2-3 people to come just have a half an hour with us and tell us all the things that they thought were important relative to what they do and relative to the plan update, which aren't always the same thing. So we had those discussions in January. It's been 4 months now, so we're going to need to do some checking back in with folks. And there were a couple boards and commissions that weren't able to make it, so we need to check back in with them. And going forward, I think we won't be repeating that sort of immersion day kind of thing, because I think it was helpful, but it's not a way for Anne to spend 3 days of the week. So we'll probably have to do individual check-ins with different boards and commissions, but we do expect that will continue. Go ahead.
If any of the questions make us want more data from you, like it's hard to answer something if
Sure.
we don't know the data behind it,
Yeah.
are you available to provide information? Because some of them I might not feel like I could make a
Right.
constructive opinion.
Well, so that data will be coming out in these presentations to Planning and Zoning Commission in June and July and September. Those are the topic presentations, that's what we're calling them. So on the date that we talk about open space, we'll have more information about open space, where it is, what it's made up of, whether it's dedicated or not, and concerns related to it. So there'll be more data in those meetings. So tonight, without having that data, we still do want feedback, because if we hear you saying that's really important, then we know when we have that meeting in June with Planning and Zoning Commission about open space to spend more time on it. So even without the data tonight, we want, this was just a taste, right? We want to still hear about those topics from everyone. Questions? All right, I think what we'll do is we'll take maybe a couple minutes to just get situated, people sign in if you haven't yet, grab a water, grab some juice, and then we're going to spread these, they are spread out. We might move one down a little bit and move this one this way. And I didn't say it, I don't think, but after you visit the board with topics on it and put sticky notes or tell us what, because we can also write on the notes, there'll be kind of a conclusion board that you can visit and just tell us how they fit together. I said that early on, right? These are not 9 independent topics. The overlap is really important, right? Like coastal management, wastewater. So we want to recognize that, and we want you to recognize it when we get to this one, how they're connected.
Are the boards different, or are they all the same?
They're different, right? So this one, for example, has economic development, services, infrastructure, and coastal resources. They're just divided up so that everyone's not on top of each other.
And what is it you want us to do on those sticky notes? Just what are we supposed to do?
What's that?
What do the sticky notes say?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to say on the sticky notes?
Well, so when you come, we'll just go through one, and then I'll stop.
It's an example.
So if you're at this board and you see coastal resources, you can read none of the words and tell us what you think about coastal resources. That's totally valid. Or if you don't have any strong thoughts, you can read what we wrote. So the Guilford shoreline, is an asset. The shoreline is home to residential properties, commercial uses, recreational facilities. The town marina, shell fishing opportunities, and unique public access points are part of the town's identity. How can we enhance public access to recreational opportunities while protecting natural resources? So if you don't have any thoughts, and that's okay, you can kind of just answer the question that we pose. It's like the choose your own adventure books. Do you all do those? We all read those. We all have those books. All right. So, and then again, when you get to this one, just tell us how you think they fit together. And if you have something to say that's not in any of the boards, just tell us. And then with that, I'm going to turn this off.